Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in my quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. Joining me, coming in live, remote from the Observatory, writer, director, producer, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
John, all of my typos and things have been fixed, so I go into the weekend knowing all is right with the world.
Yeah, you had a couple little technical difficulties going on with True Noir, but you got it all straightened out. You got it all fixed up.
You got to make that packaging, that billing block, contractually, there's a lot of names. I had to make sure it was perfect.
Well, glad you got that all sorted out, and I'm glad the rest of you guys got your day's schedule sorted out so you could be here with us today on the John Campea Show. Thanks so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. Here's how our show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a bunch of predetermined topics we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show is when I'm going to take your comments and questions. Now, as has been happening lately, the super chats and questions got all filled up before we even started the show today. So the super chats are now turned off. But if you sent in a super chat before the show started here today, we'll get to all those viewer questions in the second part of the show. All right, guys. With that down, let's unfortunately start off today with this. In one of those moments where you read something and think, no, that can't be right. Today falls under that category, as it has now been confirmed that legendary, iconic, award-winning actress, good Canadian girl, Catherine O'Hara, has died at the age of 71. Catherine O'Hara, whose career, most people have a career where they were really hot in this generation or that generation. Catherine O'Hara had a career that spanned multiple generations, where she did iconic performances across multiple decades. And, Rob and I were talking prior to the show today about the fact that, just even if you look at Catherine O'Hara at 71 years old, you go all the way back to SCTV and Home Alones and all that kind of stuff. But even just in recent years, she swept all the award season with Schitt's Creek, where she highlighted it off by capturing the Emmy for Best Actress. And just this year, she was amazing in Last of Us. She was incredible in The Studio. And, some of us thought something might be wrong when she didn't attend the Golden Globes this year. With the rest of the studio cast, we thought, oh, maybe she's just under the weather. But we have lost truly one of the great treasures in all of entertainment in Catherine O'Hara. The folks over at Variety wrote the following. Catherine O'Hara, a veteran actor who starred in Home Alone, Schitt's Creek, and Best in Show, has died, her manager confirmed to Variety. She was 71. O'Hara died Friday in her home in Los Angeles following a brief illness. There's no other details about how she died. O'Hara's Hollywood career spanned 5 decades, beginning with the Canadian sketch comedy series Second City Television, for which she earned her first Emmy. O'Hara went on to star in films such as After Hours, Beetlejuice, of course, Home Alone movies. She also did a whole bunch of Christopher Guest movies, like Best in Show, For Your Consideration, Waiting for Government, A Mighty Wind, which she was so good in that, and did voices in animated features like The Nightmare Before Christmas and Chicken Little. And of course, when she was in SCTV, Rob, she was with other legends. John Candy, Eugene Levy, Rick Moranis, Rick Flattery, Dave Thomas. It was just, it was an amazing thing. And now we've lost our third person because Flattery died a couple of years ago. Obviously, the passing of John Candy, and now Catherine O'Hara. And I think, Rob, to me, one of the main reasons I was just like, no, this can't be right, is just when you look at her in Last of Us and you look at her in the studio, she's so vibrant. She's so alive. Has so much energy. And we'll wait to find out more details about what it is she caught or came down with or what her brief illness was. But this one's a ball punch. I'm not going to lie to you. Especially as a Canadian, for me, it's she is literally royalty. And I just can't believe she's gone. And especially, Rob, we were saying before the show started, she was maybe right now in the throes of the most successful era of her career right now, where everybody wanted to work with her. All filmmakers are lining up to try to get her on their schedules. And I'm heartbroken by this. I'm absolutely heartbroken. Anyway, Rob, you hear about the passing of the great Catherine O'Hara. Your thoughts, and when you think of her and her career, what are going to be the performances that come to mind for you?
Well, I'm a huge fan of those Christopher Guest movies.
Oh my God, so good.
Waiting for Guy. Ever since I saw Waiting for Guffman, I mean, some are better than others, but I've liked them all. Best in Show is great. But, I remember seeing her, the first time I really noticed her was in SCTV, which I really liked. And I remember, because obviously it was Canadian and it came down to America. And there was just something off about it that we didn't have an American comedy. It was. And then, of course, the Bob and Doug McKenzie movie, Strange Brew, spun out of all of that. And it just made me a fan of Canadian comedy. And then you recently, a couple of years ago, you told me about Letterkenny.
Oh, yeah.
I'd never seen that before. And it's not, has nothing to do with SCTV really, but it reminded me of seeing something. That comedy is so uniquely Canadian. It reminded me of seeing SCTV for the first time. And I just loved her presence. I mean, there was just something, and her character in the studio, the fact that she was a kind of coming back and she got a production deal, it was like that was mirroring her life. I mean, after all the triumph with Schitt's Creek and everything that she even had a little part in Argyle, and the fact
oh my God, that's right.
Yeah, she was killing it. I mean, and she was just a great comedic actress, and a lifetime of comedic chops. So it just was a joy to watch her on screen. And I loved her rapport with Seth Rogen in the studio. I was really looking forward to, I don't know if they've shot the second season already, but it's really, I'm always of mixed emotions, John, when celebrities I like, especially movie and TV stars, pass away, because on one hand, I'm sorry that I'm not going to see new work from them. But then on the other hand, she has such a great legacy of performances. I mean, multi-generations know her from the Home Alone movies. They know her from Beetlejuice. They're going to know her from Schitt's Creek, because that show is great. I watched that with Elizabeth. I'd never seen it and caught up with it. And what a legacy she leaves behind. So on one hand, I'm sorry we're not going to get new work from her. But boy, did she do a lot of great stuff in her career. So we can go back and enjoy those performances forever.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we were talking earlier about how she spanned generations, because there was the SCTV generation.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward a bunch of years and she's got her Beetlejuice, Home Alone. And then you fast forward even into modern day, where she's got Beetlejuice 2. She's got, again, hey guys, I know there's still a lot of you out there who have never seen her as Moira Rose in Schitt's Creek. It is one of the greatest television comedies, and I'm clearly biased because I'm Canadian, but it is absolutely one of the greatest television comedies of all time. There's a reason why it was the only show, Rob, in Emmy history. The Schitt's Creek was the only show in Emmy history where it swept every single category. It won Best Writing, Best Directing, Best Series, Best Lead Actor, Best Lead Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress. No other show, drama or comedy, had ever done it. And her as Moira Rose is one of the just absolute load-bearing main pillars of that series. And The Crows Have Eyes is always going to be a movie I wish was real as a result of that. So anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you feel about this? Legendary actress Catherine O'Hara, I still can't believe it's true, has passed away at the age of 71. What do you think about when you think of her career? Maybe it's one of those Mighty Wind movies she did. Maybe it's Home Alone. Maybe it's Beetlejuice. Maybe it's SCTV. Maybe it's Schitt's Creek. Maybe it's The Studio. I don't know. But whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, we all know, of course, it's in the news every day when we're talking about in the world of movie news, but that Netflix and Paramount are in a heated battle right now to get Warner Brothers. Well, apparently now, the old betting term, the smart money is on whatever. Well, literally, it seems now like the money is on Netflix getting it, because in this new report coming from the New York Post, Wall Street traders are now betting that Warner Brothers will get acquired by Netflix and that it will fly by and get government regulatory approval pretty much no problem. This is what comes to us from the New York Post, who write the following. Wall Street traders are now betting that Warner Brothers Discovery not only will be sold to Netflix, but also easily approved by U.S. and overseas regulators, with so-called short interest in the stock recently evaporating. What they basically mean by that is, if you've seen a movie like The Big Short, you'd kind of know what this means. But for a very long time, the article points out, it was a very popular thing in Wall Street to short Warner Brothers, which basically meant you were betting that Warner Brothers is going to fail and that you would profit if Warner Brothers stock goes down. The New York Post article is basically saying that's all gone now. That's pretty much disappeared. They say basically now like 3% of investors are shorting Warner Brothers at this point. So it's basically drawn up. Now, what do they attribute this to? Well, they say the sentiment began to change early last year as CEO David Zaslav began to implement his long-term vision for the company. First, he settled on a streaming name that utilized one of his best-selling brands. Still, the biggest mistake he ever made was taking out the HBO name. I'll never understand that, but at least they corrected it and put it back in. Then he made it profitable and began churning out hits in his Warner Brothers Studio subsidiary. He slashed debt, shares recovered from their near penny stock lows to up to around $12, which again, Rob, we talked about recently on the show about how that was the highest it's been since coming out from under the AT&T oppression that Warner Brothers used to live under there. And now they're saying, you know what? Wall Street, the investors now believe that Warner Brothers is going to do great, that Netflix is going to acquire it, and that it's going to get its regulatory approval so pretty easy. Now, I don't know about it getting regulatory approval easily, but the old adage goes, Rob, follow the money. And right now, the money seems to be on Netflix getting Warner Brothers and pretty clearing it. Anyway, you read this story. What are the elements that are standing out to you about it?
Well, I just like the fact that they've basically picked a winner in this. And I enjoy that when the money people, like you said, follow the money. When the money people speak, it's always reassuring. I mean, because again, I spoke to a friend of mine, a pretty high-ranking guy at the studio yesterday, and he reiterated that they think it's a much better option, because one of the things that I think would happen if Skydance got Warner Brothers is they would dice and slice it up. A lot of people would lose their jobs because there's a lot of redundancy, whereas with Netflix, there really isn't any redundancy. So I would just like to see the studio continue to flourish, especially coming off the year they had in 2025. And obviously the things that they were doing, the Mike DeLuca, Pam Abdi reign over there finally reached fruition. And even when something, they might not have made enough money off one battle after another to justify its cost. I don't know if it's profitable, but it's still, from a creative standpoint, it could very well win Best Picture. You're working with great filmmakers, which is, under other people's, they lost Christopher Nolan. And that's a big mistake. And that will never happen under Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca's reign. So it's great that hopefully Warner Brothers will stay. That's what I want the most, John, is to see Warner Brothers left intact. And
like tens of thousands of people are going to lose their jobs if Paramount ends up getting Warner Brothers. Because like you said, Netflix pointed out, hey, Warner Brothers is a completely different business from us. when we acquire them, we're not going to fire anybody because we don't have anybody in our Netflix side that does what they do at Warner Brothers because it's a completely different business. Whereas Paramount is saying, oh yeah, we're going to fire like crazy. We're going to fire everybody because there's going to be so much overlap. Now, the reason Paramount said that was because they thought that would appeal to the shareholders, that the Warner Brothers shareholders would like the idea that we cut it back. But Rob, I don't know if you saw the story the other day that came out that Warner Brothers revealed that 97% of the shareholders have rejected Paramount's hostile takeover bid. So it's like the owners themselves, the shareholders, are not interested in having Paramount own them.
You know, one of the things that people don't really know because it's not necessarily sexy news, but there is a real effort at Warner Brothers happening to make new transfers of their old catalog titles. And they have very aggressively made physical media deals. And the reason they make those physical media deals with companies like Arrow and Shout Factory and Criterion is because it's allowing their back catalog to get remastered. And that remastered back catalog, I mean, they're going deep into their catalog all the way back into the 30s and 40s up to the present day. All of that stuff can wind up on Netflix. You know, so their entire back catalog is being remastered. And so this is not something that has to that Netflix is going to have to start. It's been happening at Warner Brothers for years now. And when you look at Warner Brothers made an aggressive deal. They have like 100 movies from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s coming out through Arrow. You know, just that, and Arrow does a great job. They have Excalibur has finally been remastered in 4K, and I love Excalibur from 1981. And that again, that now this beautiful new transfer can then eventually wind up on Netflix. So they're getting not just the studio, but they're getting a back catalog that is actively being remastered into the very best versions of those films that'll possibly exist. I can't say what it is, but I heard about it, something they're doing yesterday that's astonishing in terms of their back catalog and what they're going to do. And I mean, that's got to be on Netflix's mind, that they're going to just get an embarrassment of riches that they can put right up on their platform. Not just all the TV, but movies that are readily dripping coming out of the remastering in beautiful, sparkling new editions. So they're going to get an incredible amount of programming, whereas Paramount's allowed their library to be gutted by everyone.
Here's the one I think remaining, because, you know, I used to feel that Netflix getting Warner Brothers was the worst possible case scenario. One by one, my fears have been addressed. But the one thing that I still think stands out there and is floating out there like a specter over the graveyard, that I think is going to be an ominously bad thing for some people. I fear, you know me, I'm not a physical media guy. I'm a digital guy, right, all that kind of stuff. But I do fear what will continue to happen with physical media, particularly coming out of the Warner Brothers archives, once Netflix takes it over. Because remember, Sarandos is saying that the best thing about them buying Warner Brothers is that they're a totally different business, and we're getting into new businesses. But still core to Netflix's business model is that people consume their home entertainment through streaming. That's core to their identity. And I do fear, even as somebody who's not a physical media guy myself, I do fear that this could spell an even greater hastening towards maybe eliminating physical media stuff coming out of Warner Brothers. As somebody who is very tied into the physical media world yourself, what do you think about that?
Well, here's what's really interesting. The companies that Warner Brothers has been licensing movies to, a lot of them share the price, or they are paying for the remastering efforts of these particular movies. And the caveat is that Warner Brothers then owns the new masters. So they're able to put, so they literally have physical media as one of the drivers of these remastering efforts. Now, Warner Archive is its own label, so they're putting out their own classic stuff, and they started to dip into making 4Ks. They did a great transfer of the Bing Crosby movie, High Society, that was picked yesterday as one of the 25 films that the Library of Congress picked to go into the film registry. I believe John Carpenter's The Thing was picked too. So physical media is driving that. So I would imagine that Netflix wouldn't mind physical media, because physical media, it's not going to be around for very much longer. I mean, as much as I'm loath to admit that, but for the next, call it 5 years, they're going to get the byproduct. As long as the titles sell and they still make a little bit of money, the byproduct is they're getting all these brand new transfers that they don't have to pay for. So they're just going to get the transfers after the licensing time is over, which is really exciting, because Warner Brothers, the stuff that, I mean, Vinegar Syndrome is putting out. Warner Brothers did this there's a TV movie called Don't Be Afraid of the Dark that Guillermo del Toro remade. Well, Vinegar Syndrome, which is a boutique label, they're putting out the 4K version of that. They did a 4K remastering, but Warner Brothers was never going to put that out. But Vinegar Syndrome will. So we're going to have a boon when it comes to Warner Brothers physical media for a while. So if you collect physical media, polish up that credit card for the next couple of years, you're going to get a lot of great Warner titles. And then hopefully they'll wind up all on Netflix in one place, which will be great, because you'll have the entire legacy of Warner Brothers, kind of like what Disney Plus is, where the entire legacy will be on Netflix to enjoy. And it's great.
All right, we need to move on here. So guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Warner Brothers, apparently, Wall Street is saying they're going to get taken over by Netflix. They're betting on that, and that it'll clear regulatory procedures. Do you think they're right? Do you think you're wrong? They're wrong. Do you think that's where the smart money is? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, what is kind of becoming a bit of a tradition, if you will, in the world of movies is that we often find out some of our first pieces of information about an upcoming movie that everybody's excited about when toys leak or they release certain toys. That's when we find out some stuff. Well, this one's not a leak. This was purposefully done. But the first round of toys for the upcoming He-Man Masters of the Universe have come out. And I'll tell you what, one of the things that we said coming out of CinemaCon last year was like, hey, look, we don't know if the movie's going to be good or if the movie's going to be bad. But if it's important to you that the characters look identical to the way they looked in the old cartoon, then you're going to be happy with this. And boy, do the new toys kind of highlight that. As they're saying is, each figure reportedly roughly 30 points of articulation, so they're built for posing, staging battles, and probably recreating a few dynamic slow-motion hero shots. The first wave gives collectors a strong mix of heroes and villains. On the heroic side, we've got He-Man, Battle-Cat, Man-at-Arms, and Teela. Representing the darker corners of Eternia are Skeletor, Triclops, Evil-Lyn, and Trapjaw. And as we scroll down here, we get our first look at some of these pictures. And listen, if you had showed me this before the trailer, I'd say, wow, they really kind of nailed it. They really kind of nailed it. Taking that, and then, oh God, I can't wait to see this shot in live action. Oh, I will probably buy this too. I cannot wait to see Cringer all up in his full Battle Cat array. I think that looks pretty damn good. I'm really excited to see that. And there he is without the armor. And then, of course, we got Skeletor. That looks perfect. Remember, we're talking about the toy now, but Rob, that looks perfect to what you would want to see in an upcoming new iteration of the movie. That looks really great. There's another pose of them holding, and the staff is perfect. The staff is absolute perfection. Then we get Trapjaw. Looks just like he does in the previews. Yeah. And again, I like this. What they say, 36 points of articulation, which is pretty cool. Oh, so it looks like he's going to have different attachments for his hand, because there he's got like a blade and there he's got the hook. So that's pretty cool. Then we got Idris Elba. I'm not quite sure about the face sculpt, Rob. Not quite sure that looks a lot like Idris Elba, to be honest with you. Agreed. Yep. And there we got our shot of Tila. Again, not a great face sculpt, but the overall thing looks pretty damn good. And then we got Triclops standing there. Ever notice that a lot of these sword and sorcerer things, they all have got the like 5 strands of leather flaps hanging in front of the crotch. That's a very big fashion statement for a lot of these. And then of course, yep, got to be protected. No bulge. And then we got Evil Lynn, who I remember when we saw her in the trailer, she just looked absolutely fantastic as Evil Lynn. I just remember like being really taken with how great she looked in that shot. Yeah. Anyway, Rob, you're a big toy guy. You've had a chance to see a bunch of these figures. What do you think about them?
You know, it's so funny. The day that Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan opened, I bought the original He-Man figures at KB Toys in the Bellevue Square Mall. And I didn't watch the show. You know, I've watched a few episodes over the years. I worked on a He-Man documentary back in 2012. But I do love these figures. And they're such classic. I mean, if the movie does really well, I would love to have these figures on behind me on the shelf. If nothing else, I have one He-Man figure. I have the remastered He-Man and the Wind Rider vehicle. I have that. So I would buy this. He-Man on Battle Cat. I mean, it's so classic. Come on. I'd get that.
Yeah, they all look pretty good. And again, look, I don't know how good or bad. Again, let me reemphasize this. I don't know how good or bad the movie itself is going to be. Travis Knight is directing it. That is a huge plus. He has not made a bad movie yet. He has shown with even just his movie Bumblebee, which is by far the best live action Transformers movie, like by a mile, it's the best live action Transformers movie. He can take that old IP and give it real heart and real thrills and real humor and real humanity. He just has a way to do stuff like that. Will he be able to do that with Masters of the Universe? I don't know. Masters of the Universe is a tough nut to crack, but we'll see if he's able to be up to the task. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The new toys for Masters of the Universe have come out. I think they look pretty damn good. I don't know if that means the movie's going to be good or not, but whatever you guys think about them, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we thought to end off the week here, we would play ourselves a little round of what's more likely. A little bit earlier today, I jumped on the YouTube channel and I asked you guys over there, it's like, do you guys have any what's more likely scenarios for us? You guys sent a bunch in. We've got a few of them gathered up here. So let's crack to them, shall we? And Rob, we're going to start off with you.
All right.
When our viewer, Rudger Cole, sends this one in. What's more likely, Rob? The Odyssey has the bigger box office opening weekend, or Dune Part 3 has the bigger box office opening weekend? Because we often have been comparing Dune 3's opening to Avengers Doomsday, obviously, but which one is more likely to be bigger? The the Odyssey opening or Dune Part 3?
You know, I'm going to go with Dune Part 3 because you're talking about a film series that people really like. The box office has increased from Dune 1 to Dune Part 2. And I think people are primed. I mean, it's Timothée Chalamet's world. We're all just living in it. And I think that it's going to, I think the Odyssey, for as much as it's a Nolan joint, and I think it's going to be great, I still think that the subject matter, you know, the jury's out on that. It's a sword and sandal movie. I'm not saying it's not going to do well, but I do think Dune 3 is going to do better in its opening weekend.
Right. I think Dune 3 will be the better movie. Like, I think they're both going to be awesome. I think Dune 3 will be the better film, but I got to believe, I'm going to say it's more likely that the Odyssey has the bigger opening weekend for 3 reasons. Reason number 1 is Dune is not a $1 billion franchise. Like
No.
I've said that before the first Dune came out. This is going to be could be one of the greatest series ever, but it's not a billion-dollar franchise because it's more of a thinking man sci-fi, and that doesn't appeal to everybody, and that's fair. The Odyssey is a potential billion-dollar film, and so that's one of the reasons. The second reason is because, well, Dune 3 is opening against Avengers Doomsday. And while I'm starting to get on board with the idea that Doomsday can elevate all ships, I still think it makes for a challenging opening weekend for Dune 3, whereas Oppenheimer, no such problems. It's not going to open against another big, huge, epic tentpole sword and sandal movie. So I think on that level, it's going to kind of have a little bit more of that. And the third I'm going to go with is just Christopher Nolan. You know, I believe the two best filmmakers today, like all time, is Steven Spielberg. But the two best filmmakers going right now at the height of their powers is Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve. But one of them is more known for the big crowd-pleasing blockbusters. And that's more Christopher Nolan than it is for Denis Villeneuve. So for those reasons, Rob, you very well could be right. But I'm going to say it's more likely that
those are great
Odyssey,
arguments. I cannot argue with your cogent logic there, John.
But it depends on how big. If the Doomsday thing really takes off, I mean, who knows? All bets could be off. All right. Let's go over to our next one here, shall we? And our next what's more likely scenario gets sent in to us from Lost and Core Films. Anyway, who writes, what's more likely, speaking of Denis Villeneuve stays to direct multiple Bond movies or just the first one? That is a great question. All right. So unlike his main contemporary counterpart, Christopher Nolan, who doesn't really like to delve into sequels that much, Denis Villeneuve has done sequels, not only to his own films like Dune, but he also did a Blade Runner sequel. So he's not really against all that too much. So here's my thoughts. My thinking is, and there's no proof for this, this is just me speculating as a fan. My thought on this is that when Amazon got Denis on to direct, I think they probably secured him for more than one film. My guess is they got him for more than one film. I think they don't just want to launch the new James Bond well, which, hey, you're getting arguably the best director in the world right now to do it. But I think they want this first era to go really well. Whether that means 2 films or 3, Rob, for now, I'm going to say I think it's more likely that Denis does more than just the first Bond. I don't know if that means 2, 3, or 4, but I just think it's going to be more than just the first one. What's more likely, that he just does the one or he does multiples?
Well, I think, again, your reasoning is good. I would imagine that because, look, he didn't make the sequel to Sicario. Day of the Soledad or whatever the sequel is called, which surprised me because I loved the first. I thought Sicario is an amazing movie. It's incredible. But in the case of this, I think you're probably right. I think Amazon might have made a deal to secure him, because why wouldn't you? And it gives the opportunity, if you're going to go back and you're going to retell the story of Bond and start out when he's a British naval officer, you could have a trilogy there. You know, you could really develop it that way. I mean, that's what I would do if I was rebooting Bond. But on the other hand, you know, Denis Villeneuve has been working on Dune now for the better part of a decade. And I don't know if he wants to get bogged down in making multiple sequels to Bond movies, because the Bond franchise is a formula more so than anything else. So unless you know and you can bring something new and fresh to it, maybe that's what they're planning. But I could see him only making one and leaving, because he's got other things he wants to do. And frankly, I want to see what other movies he's going to make. You know, I'm saying I think he's going to do one.
America 5. What is more likely, Thunderbolts 2 or Captain America 5 with Sam Wilson? Rob, which one of those two things is more likely?
I am going to have to go with Thunderbolts 2 because Captain America didn't do nearly as well as they would have hoped, and it cost a lot of money. So I don't, as a matter of fact, I think there's an argument to be made that neither one of those movies are going to happen for that same reason. But Thunderbolts is probably less expensive to make than a Captain America movie. However, I think all bets are off. I'm going to say it's more likely a Thunderbolts 2 is going to get made. But after what, I don't know what the MCU is going to look like after Secret Wars. So I have no idea. So I'm hesitant to say one or the other, but I'm going to go with Thunderbolts 2.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I think it's more likely we get a Thunderbolts 2. I mean, look, a lot can happen once we get the Avengers movies, but right now, people aren't buying the Sam Wilson Captain America. And that is no fault of Anthony Mackie's. They made a bad Captain America movie. Whereas the Captain America movie made more money than Thunderbolts, by far people preferred the Thunderbolts movie.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, not only do I think it's more likely that we'll get a Thunderbolts 2 over a Captain America 5, but again, that can change after Avengers. I would say it's more likely that we do get a Thunderbolts 2 than not get a Thunderbolts 2. I think they saw how well that movie was received. I think they'll go more into it. So I'm going to say that I think it's more likely that we get a Thunderbolts 2. All right. Let's move on to our fourth what's more likely scenario. And this one gets sent in to us by Sean Merchant, who writes, what's more likely, Project Hail Mary flops or The Mandalorian and Grogu flops? All right. Well, look, I don't think either will, but if you guys have watched the show for any period of time, you know I think the potential for them to flop is there for both of them, right? I think Project Hail Mary looks like it could be one of the best films of 2026, but I don't know how well it's going to appeal to people to get them out to the theaters. I just don't know. It could be a big hit, could be a flop. I'm going to say if one of them were going to flop, it's more likely that Mandalorian and Grogu does. And Rob, I'm going to stay on the same reasoning that we've had the whole time. And now look, I think Mandalorian and Grogu will make 400 million, 500 million. It'll break even, maybe even make a little bit of profit, but I still think it's the greater chance that that one flops because, you know, it's basically just a glorified fourth season of a TV show.
Yeah.
That not everybody watches. And whose last season ended on its absolute weakest note. And so while I think it'll be okay, I do think Mandalorian and Grogu will be okay. The chances for it to flop are there. Therefore, I say out of the two of them, I'm going to say it's more likely the Mandalorian and Grogu flops. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you for those reasons, but I also think that the thing is, for those of people who haven't read Project Hail Mary, that story is so engaging and, dare I say, in a way, uplifting. I think that movie is exactly the kind of thing that people go to the movies for, especially in times like we're living through right now. I think that it's going to deliver. I mean, based on what we saw at CinemaCon, and they showed a lot more of that, and the tone, I think, was a lot more evident in that footage. I think this movie's going to do incredibly well. I think people are going to really embrace it. I think that it's why people go to the movies. Whereas, like you pointed out, Mandalorian and Grogu is coming off of not a very good third season, and not everybody watches it. And I think that and the fact that Project Hail Mary is new and it's a well-regarded book, not that enough people read anymore, but I just think it's going to provide the kind of experience. It's going to have huge word of mouth. Whereas Mandalorian and Grogu, no matter what kind of word of mouth is, it's only really going to appeal to Star Wars fans and kids.
And only the Star Wars fans and kids that actually have Disney Plus and watched Mandalorian. So again, I still think Mandalorian and Grogu will be fine. I just think it's more likely that one flops. All right, Rob, let's go on to our fifth what's more likely scenario. This one gets submitted to us by Mr. Mito, who writes, Rob, what's more likely, Andy Muschietti directs Brave and the Bold, or James Gunn comes back to direct it as his next movie after Man of Tomorrow.
Look, Andy Muschietti, after doing It, Welcome to Derry, and the It movies, and even The Flash didn't do very well, but it's not. I think he's proven himself. I don't think there's any chance he's going to get removed from the Brave and the Bold movie at all. And even if he did, I don't think James Gunn would come in and direct Brave and the Bold. I think they need somebody different to direct a Batman movie. They need a different flavor. And I think that knowing what Andy Muschietti can do in terms of delivering darkness, he's just a different kind of a guy than James Gunn. I don't think James Gunn is not going to direct Brave and the Bold.
If you had asked me this question 2 months ago, I probably would have said it's more likely James Gunn does. Because you remember last year we were talking about this, Rob, there seemed like in public communication, there seemed to be some pretty big disconnects between James Gunn and Andy Muschietti. Like Andy would say something and James Gunn would contradict that and say, no, that's not true, and all that kind of stuff. But since Welcome to Derry, it's like, how do you not go with this guy? Like, he did such an amazing job on Welcome to Derry that I think they will. The other thing is this, Rob, at some point, James Gunn has to leave set and actually run this damn company.
Right.
He actually, at some point, he needs to do the job that he was hired to do, which is to not just direct individual films, but to run the entire ship. And because of both of those things, I'm going to agree with you, Rob. I'm going to say it is more likely that Andy Muschietti goes on to direct this rather than James Gunn coming in to direct it. All right. With that down, let's get on to our final what's more likely scenario. And this final one gets sent into us by N. Mandrew, who writes, what's more likely, Michael B. Jordan winning Best Actor or Sinners winning the most overall Oscars? Woo! That's a good one. Okay. Does either Michael B. Jordan win, which if he does win, that would help Sinners win the most Oscars that year? Or is it more likely? Now, remember, Sinners just broke the all-time record for most nominations at a single Oscars. I think it was 16, Rob, if I'm not mistaken. Sinners, I believe, got 16 nominations, more than, I think the previous record was 14, more than any other in history. I'm going to say that it's more likely, Rob, that Sinners wins the most Oscars out of any other film this year. And I'll say that for 3 reasons. 1, I don't think it's likely Michael B. is going to win. Totally deserving if he does. Totally deserving if he does. But I think it's written in the stars now that Timothée Chalamet is going to win Best Actor. I think that's kind of, and if it's not him, I think the next one up is probably Leonardo DiCaprio and then Michael B. Jordan. Again, any one of those 3 could win and I'd be totally happy, but I think it's going to be Timothée Chalamet. Reason number 2 that I think it's more likely that Sinners wins more Oscars than any others is what we already mentioned. I mean, it's got 16 nominations. It's in the running in a lot of categories. And the third reason is it's not like it needs to win 11 to win the most. For all we know, another film, the second highest most winning film this year, might just win 3, in which case Sinners just needs to win 4. Or maybe, I don't know, One Battle After Another wins 6. Well, then Sinners just needs to win 7. So for all 3 of those reasons, I'm going to say it's more likely that Sinners wins the most Oscars rather than Michael B. Jordan winning. Rob, what do you think?
Well, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think that, Michael B. Jordan, as much as I love Michael B. Jordan, he's one of my favorite actors working today. I've talked about that a lot on this show. You just said it. The tea leaves are predicting it's Timothée Chalamet's year. I mean, as much as, and if it isn't, like you said, it's going to be Leo DiCaprio. Even though I think what Michael B. Jordan did, even from a technical standpoint, playing Smoke and Stack, was amazing. I mean, and what he had to go through, and how you listen to him, how they actually, it's amazing he was able to give the performances that he gave, because that was not easy to do. But on the other hand, you know, it is, it is what it is. So I believe that it's going to be Sinners. One or the other will probably win them more Oscars. But I don't think, even though Sinners got a lot of Oscar nominations, I don't think it's going to necessarily win a lot of those Oscars that it was nominated for. It's a tough year this year, man. I think we're going to see the Oscars spread out amongst a lot of films.
But see, that's part of the reason why I think it's more likely that Sinners wins the most, because I don't see any one film winning 9, because it is such a tough year. So that's why I think Sinners, with 16 nominations, winning 6 or 7 could do it. That could be enough.
And it's going to win. I think it's going to win a lot of technical awards. I wouldn't surprise me at all if it wins best cinematography, you know, sound design. There's a lot of great technical awards. Ruth Carter winning
best costume design again.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that will wrap up today's session of What's More Likely. Thank you to everybody who sent in those scenarios for us. Keep your eyes open on the YouTube channel when we put out a call for submissions, and maybe you'll see your next submission the next time we play What's More Likely. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this. Speaking of the Oscars, one of the dumbest things the Oscars has done traditionally is wasted enormous amounts of screen time on the best song category at the Oscars. Because you know my feelings on this, Rob. My feelings on this has always been, a song plays for like 2 minutes in a movie. That's it. And yet it gets more screen time at the Oscars. Traditionally, what they used to do is they'd bring out all 5 nominees and they'd each sing their song. So basically the best song category, while only playing for about 2 minutes in a movie, would get like 15 minutes of screen time of the Oscars. Whereas the best actress category gets 1 minute. You know, they don't have the actresses, Rob, who are nominated for Best Actress, come out on stage and for 3 minutes perform a 3-minute scene from the movie they were in. Why does Best Song get more love and more attention at the Oscars than Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Cinematography, It's always been ridiculous. So I've always thought they've needed to make changes. And they've been playing with some changes to their credit. The Academy's been playing with some changes in this category the last couple of years. But now they've just made a major one that's going to get some people upset. It's now been confirmed, this comes to us from Variety, that there are going to be Best Song nominated songs performed at the Oscars, but only 2 of them. Not all 5 nominees. Only 2 of the nominees are going to get to perform their songs. And those songs is Golden from Sinners and I Lied to You, or Golden from Kpop Demon Hunters and I Lied to You from Sinners. Variety writes the following. The Oscars only have time for 2 songs. The Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences has confirmed that only 2 of this year's Best Original Song nominees will be performed live during the 98th Academy Awards on March 15th, citing time constraints and broader structural changes in the telecast. In a letter sent to all music nominees and obtained exclusively by Variety, the Academy emphasized that the Best Song category will still remain fully integrated into the broadcast. Like, they're still going to have somebody come out, read the nominees, and present the winner. That's still going to happen like every other category. Even as live performances are limited just to Golden from the animated musical Kpop Demon Hunters and I Lied to You from the vampire drama Sinners. All right. Bravo. This is a good move. It's a good move. Look, my mom used to say, and others say this too, but my mom used to say, if you want to tell what's important to somebody, see what they spend most of their time doing. Because what you spend your time on is a giveaway to what's actually important to you. And when I would look at the Oscars, traditionally speaking, if you go back and watch the Oscars, you would think, if you knew nothing about movies, wow, the absolute most important category of all movies is Best Song. Best Song must be the most important Oscar there is, because when you look at the Oscars, that's what they would spend most of their screen. They spend more time on Best Song than any other category. And that has always been ridiculous. Always been ridiculous. Now, I've been okay with the idea of like bringing all 5 nominees on stage and each one of them plays, like have somebody compose a medley of the 5 best songs and then have the individual performers come out and do like 20 seconds of their song that then bleeds into the next performer doing 20 seconds of their song that bleeds. And then therefore you take up like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I would be okay with something like that. But this, like I said, Rob, no other category has the nominees come out on stage for 3 minutes and perform their art from the movie for 3 minutes. Leonardo DiCaprio isn't going to come out on stage and reenact a 3-minute scene from one battle after another. So why does the music, which is the least important, music's important, but out of all these categories, it's the least important of these categories because it only plays for like 2 minutes in a movie. Why do they get the far more screen time? It's ridiculous. It tells the world that the song is more important than the actor or the directors or the writers. And look, everybody knows that it's either going to be I Lied to You or, Golden from Kpop Demon Hunters. And by the way, it should be Golden from Kpop Demon Hunters. It's not only it's the number 1 song in the world. It, like, not just in movies, it's the number 1 song in the world. So of course you perform that one. But Rob, I'm just saying I am okay with this. And I would be totally okay, depending on how it plays out in March at the Oscars. But I'm thinking I'd be okay with this, them doing this moving forward for the rest of it. I don't know, Rob. You saw this report. This is a significant change to the Oscar structure, at least as far as the music goes. They need to do something about it. What do you think about this solution they've come up with?
Well, look, like you, I think the Best Music Award was a vestige of an earlier time because music in movies, there was a lot more musicals made, and you'd have a movie like The Poseidon Adventure that would have a theme song that became a huge hit. So that is, and they've been reluctant to make these kinds of changes. I think it's a really good move on their part to do this because, like you pointed out, why do we suffer? I mean, they've tried to do so many things over the years. They've made medleys. They've had various people come out and sing all the songs together. They've done all kinds of things, but it eats up an incredible amount of time. And I think now these 2 numbers, everybody knows these songs. I mean, I think that this is actually, I wouldn't have said this last year, but seeing the Kpop Demon Hunter song performed live is actually an attraction. People that wouldn't traditionally necessarily watch the Oscars are going to tune in. You're Kpop Demon Hunters fans. They'll tune in and watch. So I think it's a canny move from the Academy. And I think that well done. And like you, and like your mom, it's been a long time coming, and it's about time that we don't have to watch 5 different songs performed that'll eat up 25 minutes,
Yeah, or 20 minutes. Now, look, I understand. I've seen some people in live chat saying, but John, you loved the Annie Lennox performance at the Oscars. That's a great Oscar moment.
Yep.
Or Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga.
Well, we would get those still.
Right. That's the thing with this sort of an arrangement. I don't mind the idea of 3 minutes being dedicated to highlighting the music. I've no problem with that. So I think you would still get your Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper, which was a great Oscar moment. You would still get that with this new arrangement. You would still get the Annie Lennox thing. And so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, because they transcended the Oscars. I mean, that song for Star is Born, that song was everywhere.
It was like the number 1 song in the world, much like Golden is.
Yeah, it permeated the pop culture. The Annie Lennox song, first of all, Annie Lennox, all the way back with her stint with the Eurythmics. But that song is an incredible song, Into the West. And it was at a time when all those Oscars, I mean, it swept. Return of the King swept the Oscars, and rightfully so. So it worked.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? I think this is a very good move. Maybe not the perfect solution. Maybe they can come up with something else. But instead of having all 5 songs chew up tons of screen time at the Oscars that no other category gets, they're going to have the 2 most popular ones come out and be performed. I like it. I think it's a good move. Maybe you don't. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. You guys know that I think the most anticipated show I have in the world right now that I cannot wait for is the upcoming Amazon series God of War, based on the video game series with the greatest showrunner in the world, Ronald D. Moore, actually running the show. Well, in the last couple of days, we've had a bit of a flurry of new casting announcements for some smaller characters, some larger characters, and they have just, Rob, to me, continued this hot streak of getting some really good casting in there. So let's run down and take a look at where we're at when it comes to the casting of God of War. All right, so there's a couple that we've already known, starting with the headliner, Ryan Hurst as Kratos. I just about jumped out of my skin when they announced this one because it's a name I never even thought of to play Kratos. But as soon as they said his name, I'm like, yes, perfect. He's going to be a great Kratos. I can't wait for it. Amongst one of the newer ones, Olfur Dari Olfason from Severance is going to be Thor. Again, not a name I ever would have thought of, but when you think about the manifestation of Thor in the video game, this guy's perfect for that iteration of Thor. He's perfect with it. Here's the funny thing. Thor in the video game was actually modeled and voiced by Ryan Hurst. He did Thor in the video game, but to actually physically play him, I think Olfason is the better choice. I think he's going to be great in that. He looks perfect for it. Really like it. All right. One we already knew, which I also think was a great casting, is Teresa Palmer as Sif, Thor's wife. She's fantastic. I'm not really sure why she hasn't blown up to be a bigger star. She's shown in movies like Warm Bodies and others that she's really very talented. Anyway, so I was really excited to see that. We got Max Parker is going to be Heimdall, who is a fun, wonderful, terrifying character in the games. So that's one of the new ones that we've got. And here's one of the next big ones. Mandy Patinkin. Waiting for him to say, hello, my name is Thor Odin's son. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Of course, he's going to be playing Odin. That's one of the big things that we've got coming out of here. Mandy Patinkin is going to be Odin, taking over from, I keep forgetting the actor's name from West Wing. Schiff? Something Schiff. Richard Schiff. Who modeled and voice acted Odin in the video game. I thought they kind of could have just gone back and gotten him to do it, but getting Mandy is a great casting in and of itself, all by itself. Rob, this game being turned into a series is brilliant. Getting the world's greatest showrunner, Ronald D. Moore, in to run it is a stroke of pure luck and pure genius. And I think the casting has been bullseye, absolute bullseye across the board. None of that automatically means the show's going to be great. We're not suggesting that, but this is all very good signs, and I love what I'm seeing so far. Rob, what do you think about the casting we've been getting here for God of War?
Oh, dude, just like you. I mean, people forget that Ron Moore, Battlestar Galactica was his, and a lot of people were, you can't gender swap Starbuck. And Katie Sackhoff, what a find she was. And Outlander, that's another Ron Moore show. Casting with that is great. For All Mankind, I think that they've been bang on with that casting, and that's a show that they've had to cast new people every season. They've got some great new additions in season 5. Ron Moore knows casting, and to see the fact that nobody, people weren't thinking in these kind of terms in terms of Kratos and Thor, and like you pointed out, how great are they? You're like, of course, but nobody thought they were there. If you were thinking about Kratos, I don't think anyone ever mentioned Ryan
Hurst. No, we never did.
No. And the fact that everybody loves these casting choices shows how on top of this Ron Moore and his compatriots really are. So pretty exciting.
And it's just just that right down to its core, the nature of the narrative of those two, Norse era games are so good and so rich. And if they can really get down to it and make it a story about a father and a son with this incredibly rich surrounding. And again, I think getting Mandy Patinkin in here to play Odin. Again, Richard Schiff would have been great too. I would have been all on board with them just bringing back in Richard Schiff to play him. But getting Mandy Patinkin has been great. I always loved the Teresa Palmer casting. I think she's going to be fantastic in this. Dude, I literally right now, my mouth is salivating. I'm so excited for this show. I cannot wait for this thing to hit us. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? More and more casting. We got most of the major characters now rounded out here for God of War. I love the selections they've been making. However you're feeling about it, guys, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? There are some movie projects that we just have to wonder, are these ever going to happen? Are they ever actually, we talked the other day on the show about Tintin 2, which Spielberg and Peter Jackson keep insisting they're going to do someday, but we keep waiting for it. Where the hell's Blade? Is that ever going to happen? We are all now starting to have doubts if that's going to happen. But one of the movies that I've begun to have doubts may even happen is Fast and the Furious 11 or Fast and the Furious 10 Part 2 to the Second Power. I don't know, whatever they wanted to call it. But a new day brings new information. And according to Deadline, Vin Diesel has announced the title for the new movie and an actual release date. This comes to us from Deadline, highlighting Vin Diesel's social media post that he put up with a picture of him and Paul Walker from one of the original Fast and Furious. And he says, "No one said the road would be easy, but it's ours. Ones that has defined us and become our legacy, and a legacy lasts forever. March 17th, 2028, Fast Forever." March 17th, 2028, Fast Forever. Now, Rob, I don't know off the top of my head. Maybe you do. When did Fast Part 10 come out? Was it 2022 or 2023? I want to say 2023.
I don't know.
Anybody in the live chat know off the top of their head what year did Fast 10 come out? They're saying people in the live chat are saying 2023. So 5 years.
It is May 19th.
Okay, so it's going to be 5 years in between these films as they fought over budgets. Obviously, Vin Diesel wanted his big budget, understandably. The studio understandably wants to slash the budgets. Try to figure out what they're going to do with it, how they're going to... It's taken some time. And Rob, like I said, I started to doubt that this movie was even going to happen, but it looks like they got all the I's dotted, the T's are crossed, the final details have been worked out. I assume they've got their budget. I'll be curious to find out what their budget's going to be. But we've got a release date and we've got a title, Fast Forever. Look, I'll tell you this. I have kind of fallen out of love with the Fast and the Furious franchise in recent
Putting
years.
it mildly for me.
Yeah, I mean, I never liked it at first, but then I kind of got won over to it around 4 and 5. And then I was right up with it, even 8. Some people are mixed on 8. I even liked 8, not as much as 7 and 6, but I liked 8. But 9 was gutter trash. And 10 was, I think, a little bit better than 9, but still not so good at all. I've kind of fallen out of love with it a bit. But I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be there to see the next one, maybe the last ride. And I'll tell you what else. I've already seen some debate going on about the title. I think Fast Forever is a good title. I like it. I saw some people in the live chat earlier today suggest maybe the other way around, calling it Forever Fast. That's not bad either, but I think fast has to be the first word.
Yeah,
I think you got to do fast. Fast Forever, pretty solid title. Now we just got to sit back and wait to see who's coming back. Obviously, not everybody's going to come back because they've cut their budgets. So who's coming back? How are they going to wrap up the story with Jason Momoa? Is The Rock going to be back in it? Because they teased him at the end of Fast 10. There's a lot of questions that still need to be answered, but we now have 2 of the answers, Rob. The movie's called Fast Forever, and we've got a release date for March of 2028. You heard this news. What do you think about it?
I loved this franchise. You know, I've called Fast 5 the Citizen Kane of the Fast and the Furious franchise. I have never fallen out of love with a franchise as quickly as I fell out of love with this when I saw Fast 9 with you. And I hated it because any semblance of reality went out the window. And to be fair, 8, when you have a torpedo skipping across the frozen wastes of the Arctic, I mean, that was pushing it. That was really pushing it. But it was, I mean, hell, when James Wan directed 7 and you've got a car jumping from one building to another, I'm like, okay, I'll buy that. But the fun, John, of car chase movies is we've all been in cars. So when you put cars like on city streets driving 100 miles an hour, that's exciting because we know. And so when they do the opposite, because we've all been in cars, when they start doing things with cars that are physically impossible to do, it just becomes a cartoon. And it's not engaging. As a matter of fact, it does the exact opposite. It makes you cringe. At least it does for me. My favorite word, and it was a Fiero. It was a Fiero. No, I and that was just a meme joke that they decided to play. And I'm just like, come on, man. The whole point of watching action films that have car action is the fact that we believe it can happen. And even Fast 5, when they're dragging the safe around Brazil, that was pushing it, but it was awesome, and they made us believe. And look, I think they should cut the budget. They've talked about bringing it all the way back to LA. And you know, one of the great things about the very first movie was you got to see all these different enclaves of groups that live in Los Angeles, and it made it interesting. It made it fun, even though it was a total ripoff of Point Break. It was still fun. I want to come back and see like the biker gangs, and I want to see the low riders, and I want to see the rice rockets and whatever. I do that. No more special effects. No more giant things rolling through European cities, and no more cars using hoists and whatever, pulleys or things and hanging off cliffs. I hate all that. I just hate it. Don't do that anymore. Stop it.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say, like, what we'd like to see are stunts that are basically impossible, but there's the chance it could actually happen. Like, I'll give you a good example of one. I can't remember if it was Fast 6 or 7. I think it was 7, where they did that one where the car jumps from one building into another building.
That was Fast 7. Yeah.
Now, if you actually sit down and do, I saw one video actually on YouTube where they had this geometry professor, whatever, actually explain how this isn't possible, right? Isn't possible. But then he was like, okay, now here are the circumstances in which it could feasibly have a minute chance of working. And he landed it. And I'm like, for me, it was like, that's all I need. Give me as an audience something that has even an obscure mathematical possibility that it could, because I want the movies to stretch the limits of what's possible. But you're right. Once they get into the flat out impossible stuff, it just takes you out of the movie, because now you're not hanging on the edge of what could and would happen. Now you're watching a movie with magic and sorcery.
And it's a different kind of thing. Out of it.
Yes. So push the limits of believability. Don't leave it completely in the rearview mirror. If they can do that, we might have something special. And again, Rob, just let me ask you one more time. How you feel about the title? Fast Forever?
I like it. Fast Forever. I mean, look, that's riding off into the sunset. That's what it is evocative to me. And when this movie comes out, there's going to be, if you include Hobbs and Shaw, 12 of these things. 12, John. 12. It's time to go off into the sunset with this franchise and not come back. Bye-bye. Anyway,
guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? We now have a title for the new Fast and Furious. It's Fast Forever. And we've got a release date. It's actually March of 2028. Will they actually hold that release date? We'll find out. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with all that down, it's time for us to move over and start taking your questions that you guys have sent in. But before we do, we're going to bid good afternoon to writer, director, producer Robert Meyer Burnett. Rob, we'll talk to you again next week. Have a good weekend.
I will. I'm going to see Iron Lung and Send Help right now. Very excited. Very excited.
You're going to love Send Help. You're going to love Send Help. I watched it last night.
4DX and 3D, John.
I don't know if it needs to be in 4DX and 3D, but it's a great movie. You're going to have a good time. All right, guys. With that down, let's get over to your questions and comments here, shall we? And we're going to start off today with our questions and comments from Team Caboozles, who writes, any plans for a March movie madness? Yes. Actually, you know, it's funny. I just started thinking about it the other day. We are going to do a March movie madness. I haven't come up with the topic this year. Of course, in years past, we've done animated movies, comic book movies, movie villains. I'm not quite sure what our category is going to be yet, but I am planning on doing a March movie madness as long as I can come up with a good category. So we'll see how that goes. All right, next up. Lost Anchor Films writes, Henry Cavill is a massive Cosmere fan. He asked Sanderson years ago if he could play a role in a future adaptation. It was funny, may happen now. Yeah, so for those of you who might have missed the news yesterday, the Cosmere of, by the way, what are the Stormlight Archives is what they're called. And what's the other one? Moisture, the Moist Warriors, Moist Storm. Help me out, guys. What's the other one? So you got the Stormlight Archive and you've got the Moist Riders. Mistborn. That's what it is. The Moist Riders. Mistborn is the name of the other one. So you've got this shared universe thing of Mistborn and Stormlight Archives, and Apple TV Plus has just signed a huge deal with it to turn Stormlight into an Amazon series, and Mistborn or Moist Riders into a movie series. So that's all coming. And Henry Cavill you're right, is a big, huge fan of all of them. And I wouldn't be surprised at all to see if he gives Henry Cavill a role in those, depending on how busy he is with Highlander and everything else he's doing. All right, next up. Mark Sipp writes, yesterday you mentioned you're born to play the Marvel triumvirate of Robert Downey Jr., Ryan Reynolds, and Hugh Jackman. What about Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier? You know, Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier has to rank right up there. Like, I remember back in the day, you know, around 1996 or 1997, as movie fans were doing their fan casting. Pardon me. Their fan casting about who should play the X-Men, right? And at the top of almost everybody's list was Patrick Stewart, that guy from Star Trek, as Charles Xavier. And sure enough, he got cast to play him, and he's been brilliant. No word of a lie. I honestly, wholeheartedly believe that Patrick Stewart should have gotten a Best Supporting Actor nomination at the Oscars for his role in Logan. I'll stand by that. I'll argue with anybody about that. I will die on that hill. He should have got nominated. I'm not saying necessarily should have won, but he should have been nominated for that. But I won't say he necessarily cracks that top sphere. Again, when you just stand back and look at them, Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine, Ryan Reynolds doing Deadpool, and Robert Downey Jr. playing Tony Stark, like that is your trinity of people born to play that role in the comic sphere. I think under that, Patrick Stewart's near the top. But I won't have him actually cracking that list yet, but I think he's amazing in it. All right. Next up, we've got The Batman writes, "Hey, John, better Michael B. Jordan performance, Sinners or Fruitvale? And do you think he should have been nominated for Fruitvale? A lot of people thought he should have. I'm not going to use the word should. I'm going to say he could have been. I don't think anybody would have batted an eye if Michael B. Jordan had been nominated for Fruitvale. It's a great movie. The first time I really saw the collaboration between Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan, of course, Coogler directed that film as well. I'll say he could have been nominated for it. I won't go so far as to say should have, but his best performance out of the two is in Sinners. I mean, he was great in Fruitvale. I talk about it all the time, but I do think his better performance was in Sinners. All right. Next up, Hayden Center sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Hayden, for supporting us on that level, man. Hayden writes, "Hey, John, hope y'all are doing well. I know that you can't say much about Avengers Doomsday, but do you think we'll ever see Ben Affleck and Thomas Jane back as Daredevil and Punisher? Maybe Eric Bana as Hulk, thanks, and bring on the filthy? I do not to any of those." Well, I mean, you can already see Thomas Jane as Punisher again. Do you guys remember? Help me out in the live chat. I think it was called Dirty Laundry. No, not Dirty Laundry. Laundry Day. I think it was called Laundry Day. Yeah, I'm going to say Laundry Day. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, a couple of years ago, they put out a short film with Thomas Jane back as Punisher, although they never call him Punisher in it. But he's back as Punisher. And it's a little short film they put up on YouTube so you can see it back. Now, do I think we'll see Thomas Jane as Frank Castle on the big screen again? No, I don't think we will. But if you've got a little bit of an itch for it, go and look that YouTube video up because it's pretty fun. All right. Next up, Yanni writes, "Doom will say, 'I am Doom' in Doomsday teaser." No, I don't think so. I really don't think he will. Rutger Cole writes, "Been a massive fan. Thank you so much. I've been watching since 2020. Thank you, dude. Really sad that you didn't like Marty Supreme. I loved it so much. Tonight will be my 8th time." Well, listen, that's the great thing about movies. The great thing about movies is that they are subjective and they hit us all in different ways. And the best thing about movies is just because I didn't like it doesn't mean you can't love it. And I love that you liked it. I love it. And, you know, I'm a big Timothée Chalamet guy, so I was totally biased to like the movie. But I didn't. I just have to be honest. I didn't like Marty Supreme. I really didn't like it, to be honest with you. But most people do. And if you did, that's great. That's the important thing. Listen, I'm not one of these chud losers who's going to be, well, if I didn't like it, you didn't like it, or you better not like it. And if you dare like something that I say isn't good, then I'm going to start calling you names and I'm going to call you this and I'm going to make sure you're kicked out of the tribe. And no. I didn't like Marty Supreme. I wish I did, but I didn't. But I love that you liked it. That is awesome, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, and it's going to win a couple of Oscar, man, including Timothée Chalamet is going to get one himself. All right. Next up, Rugger also writes, "How come you don't do trailer reactions?" Because they're stupid. No, listen, I generally find trailer reactions to be generally, I find trailer reactions to be lazy and pointless. Now, I say that, but at the same time, I'm pretty down with the stuff Greg and John do with their trailer reactions. Greg Alba, you know who I'm talking about. And the guys at Struggle, I love watching the guys at Struggle. Day one. I love those guys. I absolutely love those guys. So it's kind of like how I can say I really don't like time travel being used in movies, but there are a couple I really love, like obviously Star Trek 4, Back to the Future. There are a couple. I generally am not a big fan of trailer reactions, but guys like Greg Alba and guys like Struggle, I really do enjoy watching their stuff. So why don't I do it? I mean, Listen, I've been told so many times by so many consultants and so many people that work in the business side of YouTube about, like, John, you don't know how many views you could get if you did trailer reactions. I understand. I get it. I know I can get a lot of views if I do trailer reactions. But I really don't care about view numbers. I really don't. I would do a John Campea rant a day if I cared about view numbers. I would do trailer reactions if I cared about view numbers. I just like doing shows that I enjoy doing. And I really don't care. I let the numbers take care of themselves after that. I really don't care about the rest. Now, that all being said, probably one of the main reasons why today I still don't do trailer reactions is because if you go all the way back to the AMC days, I got asked and encouraged to start doing trailer reactions because they were all popular. I thought, all right, but here's the problem. I did a couple of trailer reactions back in the AMC days. But here's the thing. When I watch trailer reactions, or when I watch trailers, I don't do this when I'm watching a trailer. Ah, ooh, ah, what? Like that's not how I watch trailers. Like if you watched me watching a trailer, like if you sat across from me and watched me watching a trailer that I really like, this is what you would see. Nice. Oh, that's good. That's good. Like, and that's not entertaining to watch. That's not entertaining to watch. People watch trailer reactions to see what? Oh my God. Like that's what they watch trailer reactions for. And that's just not now. If I watch trailer reactions like that, and if that's how I actually reacted to trailer reactions, then I'd do it. But I found that, okay, number one, if I actually film me doing a trailer reaction, it's really boring. And then if I do all that other stuff, then it's inauthentic and it's just acting. By the way, I am not accusing anybody else of acting. I'm not. I'm just saying that's not how I respond and react when I watch trailers. So, guys like Greg Alba, guys like the guys that struggle, there are a couple of others that do it authentically and do it really engaging and entertaining, and I will always love those guys. But it's not me. That's all. It's just not me. And and so that's why I don't do it. It would be inauthentic. It would be fake. And it would just be doing it for the clicks. And that's why I don't do it. Again, that's not me saying you shouldn't enjoy trailer reactions. There are some channels out there that do them really, really well. And some of them I'm a big fan of. But it's not for me. That's all. It's just not for me. That's why I have never and never will do trailer reactions. Now, what I might try doing again in the future is my trailer breakdowns. And I used to do that. I did a couple of these before, and I did enjoy where I would play a trailer, stop the trailer, talk about for a minute what we just had in there. Say, now this part's really interesting because you might notice in the background this, and this. Okay, let's keep going. And then play another 10 seconds of the trailer, stop it, talk about it a little bit, blah, 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 blah. I mean, that I had some fun doing. But yeah, it's just all the power in the world to everybody else who does trailer reactions. No shade from me whatsoever. It's just, that's why it's not for me, because I'm either going to be super boring to watch doing a trailer reaction, or I'm going to be faking it, and I can't do that, either one of those. Anyway, so there's that. But thank you for asking, man. I appreciate it a lot. All right. Next up, Aaron DC83 writes, depending on what the Ellisons do with Paramount, Is it possible it would have been better if the merger never happened and it was sold off for parts? I'm going to say no. Listen, I would rather have Paramount still intact than dissolved. And am I happy with how the Ellisons are running things there right now? No. Do I think there's still potential for them to do some really good things down their line? Yes, I do. But I would rather have Paramount still intact. It's a century-old company that is a pillar of movie fandom. It should still be there, and I'll always rather have them still be there, because you know what? Even if the Ellisons break it, it can be fixed as long as it's still here. So I'd rather it still be here and not dissolved. All right. Next up, Keaton Hayback writes, I thought Sinners was a shoo-in for winning Best Cinematography. I don't think it's a shoo-in. It's got a good shot, though. But I watched Train Dreams this morning, and man, that movie is gorgeous. You know, here's the thing. Best Cinematography is often one of those categories where film fans just cheer for the movie they like the most. Like, well, I don't know, make one up. Well, we'll just say One Battle After Another. I liked One Battle After Another. That was my favorite movie of the year. So I wanted to win Best Cinematography. And they don't really think about the actual art of cinematography. Sinners was gorgeous. I just mentioned One Battle After Another. The cinematography in One Battle After Another was fantastic. It's going to be a tough race. This one is going to be a tough one this year. It really is. All right. Bobby Jackson writes, the news of Catherine O'Hara passing is one of those things when you hear it, you're hoping there's been some terrible reporting mistake. I just said that myself this morning. I think I might have started off the show with that. I said, you know, this is one of those things where I read it and I thought, this must be a mistake. This must be a mistake. But unfortunately, then all the confirmations came in, and it's just, listen, I'm devastated, not in the same way that you get devastated when one of your parents dies. But as far as in the realm of like when a celebrity we watch dies, I'm devastated. Not going to lie to you guys too. Today's a hard day for me. I don't know if you could tell today. Number one, I've still got my cough. Today's a rough day for me. Do you mind if I get personal just for a second? Feel free to tune out if you want to. It's a hard day for me because I was talking to my dad the other day. Ann and I are planning a quick trip home to go visit my family. And we're going to go out probably in about a week and a half. We're going to go out there and go visit my dad and my siblings. And my dad said, oh, it's too bad it's not this weekend. I'm like, oh, why is that? And my dad goes, well, you know, everybody's coming over tomorrow to remember and celebrate your mom. And I thought, oh, that's nice. And then he said, yeah, because Saturday is the 1-year anniversary of when she died. And Ann and I were talking to my dad on my phone, right? Had my phone. By the way, finally got rid of my iPhone. I now have back on Android. Super happy about that. But so I had the phone on speakerphone. And when my dad said, oh, because, you know, it's the 1-year anniversary of your mom dying on Saturday, which is tomorrow. You have to understand that for some reason that I don't know why, buried in my head was this idea that my mom died like in March. Like maybe late February or March. Like I had it in my head that my mom had died a little bit later. Right? So, and for those of you who don't know, I've kind of mentioned this on the show before. I have not begun at all, even a year later, I have not even begun to start dealing or processing with the loss of my mom. Listen, everybody deals with the loss of a parent or multiple parents I'm no different than everybody else. Everybody goes through it. Most people go through it. But I have done a very, very, very unhealthy thing where I have just buried all of it. Like when my mom initially died, all of my attention went to my dad because I was worried about my dad. My dad has never known life without my mom, right? Basically. And so all of my thought and all of my attention and all of my energy was to thinking about my dad and how we're going to deal with my dad and how's my dad going to be and all that kind of stuff. And then I got on a plane and I flew home. And then once I got home to California, I put it completely out of my head. And I have not dealt with the loss of my mom at all in a year. Totally unhealthy, very unhealthy. So because I haven't dealt with it at all, and because I somehow, some reason had it in my head that my mom died in like March, when we were talking to my dad on speakerphone and he said, oh yeah, because you know, it's the 1 year anniversary. I froze like a statue for a second. And then I turned around and I walked out of the room and kept talking to my dad. And I'm not going to lie to you. I started sobbing like a fucking baby. I totally broke down. For about 15 seconds, I completely broke down. And then I did the Italian thing, which is, okay, pull it back all together and shove it back down. Shove it back down. Compose yourself, Campea. And I shoved it back down and then went in and finished a conversation with my dad because I'm dealing with all this in a very unhealthy way. That being said, I have gone all through today that today, because my mom died 1 year from tomorrow, I didn't actually speak to my mom on the day she died. On the day she died, she never came out of it. Like she had gone to sleep the night before. She never woke up again. And we were there when she died, but I never spoke to her on the day she died. Today marks the day. Today is the 1 year anniversary of the last time I talked to my mom. Today is the 1 year anniversary of the last day that I talked to my mom. And I thought about not doing the show today. But I've been able to do the totally unhealthy thing, just push it all down and not even worry about it. And just try not to think about it. But I'm not going to lie to you guys. Today already has been a really rough day. It's been a rough day. And again, I know I'm not going through anything that other people don't go through. We all lose parents. I get it. I totally do. There's nothing special about this. But it's, it's the first time for me. And today's been a rough day. So thank you guys so much for being here and letting me do this show with you guys. It has been a great help to me. And I appreciate all of you so much for being there for me and for all the words of kindness you guys sent me when it happened a year ago. And yeah, so thank you for that. But that's why today I've been a little bit off. Anyway, thank you for that. But yeah, got me thinking about Catherine O'Hara's passing away. Anyway, all right. Jay Weiss writes, Wonder Man was such a great show. It really was. The chemistry between Simon and Trevor was amazing. It's totally what made the show. Do you think we will see them again within the next 3 years? That is a great question. I do not, from what I understand, there are no plans to do Wonder Man season 2. But that doesn't mean that we cannot see Simon and Trevor again in something else. Now, because Disney and Marvel seem to be putting a wall between what's on Disney Plus and what's in the movies a little bit more and more, like other than with guys like Punisher and whatever, there's going to be exceptions. I don't expect that we're going to see them. Now I got the hiccups. Sorry. I don't expect that we're going to see Simon and Trevor, say, in Secret Wars or anything like that. You know what? I'm going to guess, yeah. I think we will see them again at some point. I think we'll see them again at some point because they were just too good. Again, I don't think we're going to get a Wonder Man season 2, but I think they'll have them back on Disney Plus at some point. All right. Next up, Paulo writes, With the ensemble, I believe the Batman Part 2 will make $1 billion at the box office and get Oscar noms. Far out now, but The Dark Knight did it. Well, yeah, but The Dark Knight was The Dark Knight, right? The Dark Knight was arguably, depending on which circles you're in, arguably to some people, the greatest comic book movie of all time. So, like, you can't just say any sequel coming out will make $1 billion because The Dark Knight did it. So yes, they're both about Batman. They're both coming off strong first films. I expect the Batman 2, which I am dying to see. I cannot wait to see Batman 2 because I love the first one. I believe you're going to see it do better at the box office than the first one did. And the first one made like $700 million. But I still don't think it's going to be $1 billion. I think we're talking about 800 million, 900 million. I think it's going to be huge. I think it's going to be a big hit. I don't quite think it'll crack $1 billion, but I hope you're right and I'm wrong. We'll find out soon for me. All right. Mega Red writes, you've talked about Secret Wars and the multiverse as being too inside baseball for most casual viewers. True. With what you know about Doomsday, do you think Marvel found a way around this? Yes. Yeah. They have definitely taken the story, at least elements of the story of the events leading up to Secret Wars in the comics, and they've structured it in such a way that casual movie fans are going to be able to follow along much easier than, say, if you did a direct adaptation from the comics. So I think they found a way to make this movie that everybody's going to be able to come along for the ride, no problem. At least that's how I think. We'll see how it executes on screen, but I think they have found a way to crack that. All right, great question, man. Next up, Tristan writes, unintentional double feature of Nickel Boys and The Testament of Ann Lee. Two very unique films in their own ways. Amanda Seyfried is an underappreciated actress. She is. You know what? I've only had the opportunity to sit down and talk to Amanda Seyfried once. And it's unfortunate because it was for a really bad movie. I cannot remember for the life of me now what the name of that really bad movie was, but it was a very bad movie. And I will not lie in like back when I used to waste my time doing celebrity interviews, I would not lie. But I also didn't want to say, oh, I didn't like your movie. And I really didn't like this movie. So it was a really awkward. I mean, the conversation came across as totally good, but like from my point of view, it was awkward because I'm trying to find a way to have this enthusiastic interview with this wonderful actress without ever revealing that I didn't like the movie, yet not lying and pretending like I wouldn't say, oh, the movie was great. No, I wouldn't say that. I would not ever suggest that I liked the movie. So how do I have this enthusiastic conversation with this talented actress without ever even pretending that I liked the movie, yet never revealing that I didn't like it? That was a tough one. That was a tough one to do. And I can't, it wasn't Gollum. Some people are trying to get, I can't remember. Oh, I wish I could remember the name of the movie. But it wasn't that. Or maybe it was. I can't even remember. But I agree with you, man. She is a very, very good actress. I think she's a tremendous talent. I really do. And I'm glad you pointed that out. All right. Next up, we've got King Tane, who writes, I'm a huge God of War fan and want to check out Battlestar Galactica. It is the greatest show of all time. Period, end stop. It is the greatest show of all time. Battlestar Galactica is the greatest television show ever made. Anyway, a huge fan of God of War, and I want to check out Battlestar Galactica since the showrunner is the same. Where should I start? Seems like there's more than just the regular show. True. There was like Caprica, and then there was like some YouTube only series that they did. Honestly, the only thing you need to watch is the main show. Go back and watch Ronald D. Moore's Battlestar Galactica. Just that's it. That's all you got to do. Don't worry about, Blood and Chrome was the name of it. Thank you, Blackberry. Yes, it was Blood and Chrome. Excellent. Well done. Well called out. So there was Battlestar Galactica, Blood and Chrome. That was an internet only thing. And then there was a new Caprica series that they did, which wasn't bad, actually. It actually wasn't bad at all. But all you really need is the main core Battlestar Galactica series. Just go watch that and then thank me later. It is, in my opinion, the greatest show ever made, but that's just me. All right. Mitch writes, remember when a movie like The Imitation Game could be made for $14 million and gross $200 million? Insane artistic license aside, love that movie. Oh, I love that movie too. And by the way, don't pretend like that was a regular thing. Like, don't pretend like in any era, it was like, made a movie for $8 million and made $300 million. That was always rare. Okay. In every era, that was always rare. That being said, you're right, man. Imitation Game is a great movie. It's really, really good. I think it's the movie for me that I finally went. I mean, a lot of other people knew this before me, but it's the movie for me where I went, man, this Benedict Cumberbatch guy, he is awesome. He's really good. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. I think it's great. And I'm glad you gave it a shout out, man. All right. Next up, Hank Pym writes, have you heard of They Will Kill You? Not off the top of my head. Looks almost exactly the same plot as Ready or Not, which I cannot wait for the sequel to that. Ready or Not, Here I Come. I'm really excited about that. And they are both releasing on March 27th. They Will Kill You. Let me see if I can look. It sounds familiar, but I'm not sure. They Will Kill You. All right. It has... Who is in this thing? I'm bringing it up now. Okay, the synopsis says a woman takes a job as a housekeeper in a New York City high-rise. Unaware of the building's history of disappearances, she soon realizes the community is shrouded in mystery. And it's got Patricia Arquette, Zazie Beetz is in it, Heather Graham, Tom Felton from Harry Potter days. You know what? I'm not familiar. I'm going to have to go look up the trailer and stuff like this after the show. That sounds kind of interesting. Thank you for putting that on my radar, man. All right. Let's see. Super Nintendo Chalmers writes, watched Airplane 2 again. William Shatner was incredibly funny. Listen, Airplane 2 is obviously not as good as the original Airplane. Okay. It's not as good as the original Airplane. And it's nowhere near as iconic and hardly, some people don't even realize there was an Airplane 2. That being said, it's a pretty damn funny movie in and of its own, in its own right. It's a pretty damn funny movie in its own right, by its own merits. And you're right, William Shatner is great in it. It's a pretty damn funny movie. Again, it's not as good as the original Airplane, but it is pretty damn funny. All right. Next up, Karoom writes, the next Fast and Furious movie is going to be called Faster Forever. How's Dispatch Only? Huh? The next Fast and Furious movie is going to be called Faster Forever. Well, it's called Fast Forever, but how's Dispatch? Are you just asking me how is Dispatch going? Oh, if you're asking me how the game Dispatch is going, because I'm playing through Dispatch, I haven't had a chance to pick it up for like 2 weeks. So I'm still not finished the game yet, but I'm really enjoying it. It's a fun little game. It's a very simple game. It's more of a story-driven game, but I'm really liking it. I love the characters in it. And yeah, I'm having a good time with it. All right. Next up, Joan writes, thoughts on the Beatles biopic official pictures? Yeah, I heard that they released images today for the 4 upcoming Beatles movies. I haven't even looked at them. I'll be honest with you. I have no interest in these movies. I honestly I'm not a Beatles fan. I'm the only person I know who is not a Beatles fan. I'm not a Beatles fan. That doesn't mean there aren't some Beatles songs that I really love. Of course there are. But I'm not really interested in a story about the Beatles. Now, of course, when it comes out, I'm going to go see them and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I haven't seen the pictures yet because when I saw the headline, I just wasn't interested enough to click on it and look. And somewhere right now, my friend Scott Mance is screaming at me through a monitor, but I'm just not going to pretend like I have any interest in the Beatles movies. I just don't. Hopefully they're great and they'll win us over, but I haven't seen the pictures, so I can't really give a commentary on them yet. All right. Our friend Murray Reich writes in, shocked on the news of Katherine O'Hara. Me too, man. She'll always be to me as Kevin's mom. I wonder how they will address her character in the studio series. Yeah, listen, obviously the most important thing is we just lost Katherine O'Hara. But obviously that in all fairness, it does bring up questions like, how are they going to, like, I guess this kills. I've started to hear rumblings. We didn't talk about it on the show, but because I didn't want to jinx it, I had started to hear some rumblings that there may have been some conversations happening about trying to bring Schitt's Creek back, which would have given me a joygasm unlike any other. But of course, we've got the studio in which we have season 2 coming. How are they going to deal with that? I think they should recast. You guys know, I'm totally fine if they just decide to say that the character died. I'm totally fine if they want to say that the character got a job running another studio. I personally think the best way to handle it is to recast and have somebody come up and pick up the baton for Katherine and carry on her behalf. I don't know how you get somebody that can do it the way Katherine O'Hara did it, but I certainly hope that's what they do. I have a feeling they're just going to say the character died off screen. I think that's a mistake. I don't think they should do that. I think the best way you honor Katherine O'Hara and what she did is by having another great actress come in and pick up the baton and carry on. I love it. Late Night alum just said, get Meryl Streep. She's doing some great television lately. Ask Meryl Streep if she'll come in and do it. That would be awesome if they did, but I have a feeling they'll probably just kill the character off screen, which is unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Again, not completely unexpected, not completely out of the ordinary, but I really hope they recast her. Anyway, all right. With that down, we go on to Matan, who writes, the reports that Genndy Tartakovsky, I should say, will work on a sea snake project is interesting, as I would pick him to helm an animated remake of Game of Thrones that is severely needed after Dungeons and Dragons removed a lot of cool stuff. Well, I don't agree that we need a Game of Thrones animated series. We're getting a lot of Game of Thrones. Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is really good so far. House of the Dragon's fantastic. We don't need we don't need a Game of Thrones animated thing. Tartakovsky, though, I mean, listen, he did like Samurai Jack. He's got that animated thing, Primal, that a lot of people really love. I mean, he's going to be a guy that everybody's going to be paying attention to. And by the way, Matan sent in like a $20 super chat. Thank you, Matan. A lot of people are going to be, understandably and deservedly so, paying attention to anything that he does next. So, but I just don't think we need him to do a Game of Thrones animated thing. That's all. All right. Pasha writes, do you think Marvel will show big characters that wasn't announced in the first teaser? Thanks. Love the show. Well, I mean, what do you mean by the first teaser? Do you mean the 4 teasers that we've had so far? Is that what you're referring to? Will they show big characters that they have not announced in the first teaser? Well, I mean, when you consider that Captain America wasn't originally announced, but they've already shown him now. Gosh. I don't know. Now, listen, I will tell you this. There are some big characters in this movie that have not been announced. There are. I won't say which ones they are, but I do not believe that they are going to put them in the first teaser trailer. Yeah, no, they're not going to put them in the first teaser trailer. I don't know if they're going to be in any of the trailers. Now, I'll just let you know, there are some big theories floating around online that I'm sure you've read that are completely wrong. Completely wrong. There are a couple of rumors floating around online, though, to be fair, that are also absolutely correct. I won't tell you which ones are which, but a few of the rumors are correct. A couple of the big ones floating around are absolutely way off base. But again, have to wait and see till the movie comes out. All right. Let's see. Murray Reich writes in again and says, was pleasantly surprised by Wonder Man. Me too, dude. Not your typical comic book, but still good. The Mandarin subplot was hilarious. The two leads were standouts. I said going into this show that what is going to make or break Wonder Man is the chemistry between Yahya Abdul-Mateen and Sir Ben Kingsley. And that was absolutely the highlight of the show. Their chemistry together on screen is awesome. And for that reason alone, I want to see them back in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at some point if they can figure it out. But I agree with you, man. I was very, very pleasantly surprised by it, Murray. I really was. All right. And our last question today, as we've officially hit the 2-hour mark, writes, with the Brandon Sanderson news and your excitement for Project Hail Mary, are there any books you've read that you want to see get a movie or TV show? Well, see, here's the thing. I've kind of answered this before. For the past 20 years, going all the way back to the movie blog days, whenever somebody has asked me, is there a book you really want to see turned into a movie or a series? I've always said the same thing. Shogun. Now, yes, in the 80s, they did a miniseries. They did. And I remember it fondly with Richard Chamberlain, John Rhys Davies, all that. But I've always wanted, whenever somebody would ask me about a book I want translated, I've always said Shogun. And we got it. And it's one of the greatest shows ever made. That Shogun series, I think, I'm not sure how high, maybe in the top 3, maybe in the top 4, but at minimum, I'll at least say, I think it's one of the 10 greatest TV shows ever, Shogun. I just think it's that good. So I have been satisfied. So I don't really have any others off the top of my head. I mean, others would have been The Hobbit, but we got The Hobbit. There's been a few others, but that's the one that's always been the big one on my list, has been Shogun. And all right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here, making this little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. We'll see you guys again on Monday. Please make sure you come back and join us. All my heart and love to you guys. Have a great weekend. May it be filled with fun and adventure or some calm, relaxing me time, whatever it is you guys need. We'll see you next time. And until then, my friends, my name's John Campea. Bye-bye.